I want to play a game. What would happen if you got some of the most passionate people in Hollywood with an original script that got some awards before it got filmed? Get an A-list producer, not just one, but like a few of them, onto your roster. Get double the budget of any other horror film that I have seen for the last 10 years. Then why would this studio want to release it on July 21st of 2023, which if all y'all remember was the same exact day as Barbie and Oppenheimer releasing? We're really going to dive into this. Welcome to Copper Shack, where we are horror obsessed. My name is Tasha Wheelhouse, and today we're going to talk about the horror film Cobweb from 2023. Last week, I did a watch review of Cobweb, where I just watched the film and then I gave some impressions and themes that I picked up on from its story. I have a link for that here somewhere on the screen. Since then, I have taken the time to do some research about this film, some behind the scenes, who were the people that were involved, and why did this film that had so much professional support fail so spectacularly? It was in theaters, and I had some questions around that because I don't remember seeing a single thing about this film that I would very much be interested in. There's something called a blood list, where every year there's an unproduced horror script that is given this kind of like pseudo award for being like, oh, that's a good story. I wish it'd get made. These are original horror scripts that professional industries will read this and go, yeah, that's a good idea. Normally that means like it's going to be made into a film, but that's not always the case when it comes to Hollywood scripts. Other films that have made this blood list are Bird Box on Netflix, years before it was produced. But I know it's given them a lot more chance of getting it made at this point because you've got Bird Box and now you've got this, although this actually maybe doesn't make this much of a case because of its box office failure, which we're going to get to. We're going to get to it. I want to talk about the players here. Let's talk about the director, Sam Bowden. And Sam has seen a lot of success on television series, a French horror television show, I'll put it on the screen, and a different show called Tank, T-A-N-K. That's actually where the cinematographer for Cobweb actually came from too. They had that prior relationship before coming into this film. The neat thing is Cobweb is Samuel's first debut film, which is shocking because this film is actually really well done. He has a sincere passion for horror. He has this belief it's about that tense moment and feeling that rubber band stretch before it snaps and making your actors feel that before they jump. Some of his tactics in his directing to get his cast to scream I thought was very unconventional, but quite funny. In an interview that I saw with him, he would on purpose not just take long shots and make his actors wait, but then he would scream behind camera, making them actually literally jump in the moment. So many of the reactions that you see in Cobweb are because he's purposefully done it that way to his actors on set. Let's also talk about the scriptwriter, Chris Thomas Devlin. He's got some good horror street cred under his belt. He did the script for the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre that came out recently. Chris also had some really interesting ideas about this script, many of which stemmed from his own childhood fears that he would sit and feel that emotion around, and then he wanted to put that into a script. He said, "I've never been more scared than when I was a kid in bed in the dark, listening to every creak and groan and tap that our settling house was making and allowing my imagination to wander. I had an idea in my head and wondered how could I convey the very specific tone that I was going for in a screenplay. It's very childlike, a fairy tale bedtime story, very simple, and I had to write it in a poetic way. I'm attracted to horror stories about children because of how powerless they are in their environments. I thought there was something interesting in a coming-of-age tale for this boy who has been living in a hermetically sealed environment his parents have created for him." I really like that that's the emotion that he wanted to evoke in his script, because the cinematographer that Bowden chose for this, he really captures the emotions of being a child and being helpless and being small in a big world. You'll notice some odd things, like you look at the outside of the house and it looks relatively normal, and then you look at the front foyer and it's huge. Like, it's cavernous even. Like, the room was made too big for the furniture that's sitting inside of it. But when you're a little kid and you're feeling that smallness, I think that came through really solidly with the choices made for the set design, as well as how the camera captures that big, massive space. I will make one note about the actors, which is Lizzie Kaplan, absolutely one of my favorite, and Anthony Starr. He's given some serious Anthony Perkins vibes in this film. Anthony Perkins is the guy that played Bates of Psycho. He's like this unsuspecting dude who's kind of handsome, but at the same time, you feel like something's off. Yeah, I thought he did a very good job with that vibe in this film. And this film did have a good roster of producers, but the two that I really want to highlight is Roy Lee. Roy Lee is a major Hollywood heavy hitter when it comes to horror films. He has produced The Grudge, like the 2004 big mega splash, produced Barbarian, really well received. Darkwater, pretty well known. A lot of other films that Roy Lee has produced in the horror genre. He's got an amazing eye for good horror storytelling scripts. The guy is well seasoned, and he earmarked Cobweb as one that was going to be a successful thing. Fun story. The Grudge is one of the first horror theater films that I got to see by myself without my parents, with my friends. So that one honestly has a sentimental place in my heart of he produced The Grudge? Nice. It makes me happy. The other producer that I think is interesting to highlight here is Seth Rogan. This is Seth Rogan's first horror script that he produced. And you know the disappointing part? I can't find a single interview or written blog of Seth Rogan giving his thoughts about this film. I want to know how he got involved. If it's his first horror script, something clearly about this spoke to him and was oh yeah, I want to be part of this project. So if anyone knows Seth Rogan, I got some questions. What did you think about the ending? And why did you like this script? How'd you get involved? Because he's a major A-list producer. He did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles last year, and that was a huge box office splash. So something about Cobweb clearly spoke to him, and I just wish I could give a voice to what that was. Maybe I could message him or DM him on Instagram. That's not creepy, right? So now we're going to talk about this film's failure. So the Cobweb 2023 budget, they spent $35. It raked in $7 million in box office. This is really not good. Typically, horror films make double back their money. How did this film have $35 million in budget and then only rake in $7? Well, I dropped it earlier in this thing of saying, Barbie and Oppenheimer, right? They literally released Cobweb the same day as Barbie and Oppenheimer on July 21st, 2023. Unless you were living during that era, it's hard to explain the hype that was the Barbie-Oppenheimer rivalry. You had the cutesy pink film, and then you had the deep, dark, dramatic nuclear war film. Which personality type were you? And that was the question. Which of these two films were you going to see? So that's strike number one. Strike number two, why release a horror film in July? I had some tinfoil hat theories about this. Lionsgate committed a lot of other horror films during the 2023 year. Hold on, I'll pull it up again. Lionsgate film release schedule 2023. They had films like The Blackening, Silent Night, and also they were doing the 10th Saw film. So clearly this is a successful franchise that is going to probably take a front seat to what Halloween release schedules are going to be, and it did. It released at the end of September so that it was there for all of Halloween. So instead of cannibalizing the same demographic that would be interested in that, they would release it on different weekends, of course. But what that means is because you've got so many competing horror scripts for a single studio to release over time, that put Cobweb in the worst possible spot. They did this film dirty because it is a good movie. The very last few seconds, not my favorite thing. In fact, a lot of the audience are kind of in my seat, which is saying, no, I really liked it. Didn't love the ending, but I liked the film. It's super hard to explain unless you watch the movie. I know I'm really selling it, but I promise it's good. Now, the other question I had is why release it on the same weekend as Barbie and Oppenheimer? Well, frankly, when it comes to studio release dates, those are decided months in advance. So there's no real way that they could have seen the bizarre social attribute of the Barbie-Oppenheimer rivalry. In fact, I think it was leading up to it, a month and a half up to it, that it started to gain traction on social media. And it was this national joke that everybody got to be in on. But that super left anything else going out that weekend in the cold. Cobweb, unfortunately, being one of them. I genuinely believe that it could have done much, much better. It's just that it was the freak nature that Barbie and Oppenheimer had on America at the time. And it's super telling because originally they weren't going to release Cobweb onto streaming services until September. Then by August 11th, they finally just moved it to streaming services because it just performed that badly in theaters. And it's not because it's a bad movie. It's because it was given a bad chance. I think this is going to be one of those horror films that people are like, oh man, have you seen that? Because it's got some fun tropes in it of you hear something in the walls and there's a little boy who's creepy. But I don't think he's creepy. I just think he's misunderstood. Isn't that what horror people like us like to think? I'm not creepy, I'm misunderstood. Anyway, I do think that this film deserved better. And I do think that this is something that you should definitely go watch and explore if you love horror films, especially if you love monster films. Thank you guys for joining me today. If you'd like to hear about more videos like this one, please hit the bell icon or tap the circle to get more videos for Copper Shock. And I will see you next week. Bye!